On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Are women destroying the image of marriage? Women marrying for the wrong reasons. I'm going to answer it this way. I think that the marriage rom-coms in Hollywood has destroyed the image of marriage. Disney has destroyed the image of marriage. So it doesn't surprise me that women are marrying for romantic love. And that kind of stuff. So sadly, so many of our women are marrying for true love. And in my opinion, that's the wrong reason, because that's not what gets you through. Once I actually sat down and talked to somebody, I became a proponent, because you learned coping skills and ways of communicating that I never had before, and then you can use them as necessary. How many times have people watch my show and say, "Damn, you're a better one than me, G"? I couldn't do that. Yeah, it's a learned thing. I think one of the major things is especially in the Black community, we are so Christian. We really believe that we're not being faithful to God if we go get counseling. But I say God made counselors too. That's why I'm big on that, man. Especially for Black men, because we just had a young rapper kill himself, right? Lil Loaded. Look, our culture is different. We're quicker to Jones on you than say I hear you. But there's sometimes if JR called Anton, and there's sometimes you can hear something in a man's voice when he hit that crack. You know what I mean? That crack. It's like, hey man, you're like, I'm on my way, fam. You got to get to your homeboy and quick, because there's maybe a loaded 45 and a bottle of Jack on the table. And we got to learn how to extend some grace to one another as men, because Black men in particular don't have a lot of outlets, and we aren't necessarily comfortable sharing personal stuff with each other, because, like it or not, we don't want it to get out, right? But the more we start dealing with therapy, the more we start understanding that, that there are some things that are out of bounds per se, and allowing folks to be human, man, we're going to be better off, because I think, this is my personal opinion. I got nothing to base it on, but I look at what we've survived as Black people. And if you put that on any other race of folks, I don't know if could they have made it to where we are. The fact that we are still breathing is amazing. But I think it's important for brothers in particular, because we don't get enough validation and support and affirmation. And we got to learn to get that to each other. I'll say this and I'll get a mic up. Oftentimes I have a young brother, he doesn't even know, he wants to give me a compliment, but he doesn't even know how. He's like, instead of saying, I like the way you dress, I like this, like that, you be sliding. I don't know what that means, but that's his compliment. And it reminds me of when what it reminds me of when, with all my college education and everything else, I still lacked the emotional vocabulary to express a feeling. That's dangerous, especially when you put testosterone in it.
Hey man, I just wanted to tell you I appreciate that balance that you added, because Jap did a show the other day on Lil Loaded and
my dog.
Man, and they took it down, but the most impactful show I've saw of his. And one of the things that I constantly say on this show is that we're real people having real conversations in real time about real stuff. And what you just touched on is what he talked about too, is about being your brother's keeper. And it don't make you weaker or soft if you in the moment. You gotta have that moment, but we gotta be there for our brothers to prevent situations like Lil Loaded. So I do appreciate, I really, really sincerely appreciate you adding that balance, fam. Thank you.
Well, and that's the thing. Jap is a friend of mine, and I would say I've been there for a friend of mine. I had to sit up for days with a brother, but you also have somebody who can do that for you. And see, with that comes a reestablishment of brotherly bonds of people that you're not necessarily the DNA related to, and trust. See, what gets us as a community is we don't trust each other. We're not sure we can trust each other. And I get it. That's why I have a firm policy. I don't beef, and I challenge you this, and I don't talk. I am like a vault. You tell me something, it ain't never gonna get out. Now, there's a Machiavellian principle of men who want to be powerful, collect favors and secrets, but there's also just a code. Somebody who talks to me know that they ain't gonna get out. And you can play a game of telephone with me if you want. You can play a game of power if you want. Tell me something, tell 3 other people. It ain't never gonna get out of me. And when somebody can tell you something and know it's not gonna get out, even in the worst circumstances, you both benefit, because they still have to have a begrudging amount of respect for you, even if they can't stand you.
Kev, I got a question for you before you dip real quick.
Go ahead.
So I'm very careful when it comes to aligning myself with certain people. I rock with people, I give them shout outs and stuff like that. But it seems as though, even though the manosphere is growing in a positive way overwhelmingly, and it's a lot of people doing a lot of great things, I kind of pay attention to how things sometimes go off the rails depending on who's popping and who's not at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I guess my question is, how do you determine what platforms you lend your voice to? Like, how do you balance that? How do you figure out, or how long maybe do you watch and evaluate whether or not you want to rock with somebody? And how do you determine whether or not you really align it with somebody versus being able to kind of have that insight or that intuition of people that's just doing stuff just for the sake of popularity, or using your name, or using your platform, or using your voice, and it's not necessarily in a positive way, or it's not necessarily coming from a good space, but it's based off of the fact that you are supporting a lot of different people and a lot of different platforms in a lot of ways because you are a good-hearted person?
Well, I work with people on different levels, but I'm really careful who I allow close to me, because like you, I work and I watch. See, one thing O'Shea will tell you, he always says that people don't recognize how much work I do behind the scenes and how much I'm watching, and I'm always watching. So I will lend my support to somebody who agrees on the basic message, but I'll also go back and look at what they've said in the past to make sure that there can be a middle ground there. There's always going to be, can it help get the message out to a greater audience, and be in the form of some kind of a Hippocratic oath, do no harm. This is why also I'm kind of hesitant to go places, because I'm not necessarily sure if the outcomes that person wants lines up with what I want. But I will say this in general. I look at the brand. And if the brands align, and if the brands can align, that's okay. But when I say that, I'm not just looking at my brand and that brand. I'm looking at my brand and your brand, and JR's brand, and Courtney's brand, and Rilla's brand, and Kay's brand. Everybody I touch, just like, will be touched by everybody I've touched in the past. So I can't necessarily work with somebody here, even if it's lucrative, because that will bring it into the ecosystem of other people. So I can't be like, you got dirt over here you got some shady stuff over here. Well, I can't have that necessarily reach over here. And is it perfect? No. What I will say is, you try to work with the people who are serious. That's one thing. I try to work with people who are serious and consistent in trying to do this full time. And I've had to make that a firm requirement in 2021 that if you're not if you don't have a consistent broadcast time, a consistent platform, consistent mess, consistent this, then I'll just wait until you get to that point. And then from that point, I try to do as much as I can to help lend what I can bring to a platform. But I still look at myself as a content creator. Yeah, I'm hot right now. That's cool. But it'll be somebody else's turn. But you got to always pay it forward. You don't ever want to get too big to where you can't still vibe with folks who are not where you're at yet. If you're a fan of, you don't have to be a fan of the man, but Rudyard Kipling, if you can walk with kings and not lose the common touch, that's big for me, because I understand that my persona could come off as bougie, elitist, arrogant, standoffish. Who's this 6'4" college Tom Ford and suit, this, that? Who is this? But then you walk up to me and I'm like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" They're like, "Oh shit, you nicer than I thought." I'm like, "I eat fried chicken too, nigga. I mean, what, huh?" And we're the only group in America that's like that, to where in our barbershop you can have the dude that cuts yards for a living, no disrespect to dudes that cut yards, and a guy who's VP of Mergers and Acquisition at Goldman Sachs, and we all get our hair cut at the same place. We're the only culture to where all our people kind of mix that way. That's unique, and that gives us an opportunity and insight that other people don't, because other folks, they separate. But I also say this, that for those of us who are trying to do great things, you can't take this shit personally. We put out too much content. We're too visible. We're too seen. And if somebody wants to, they can find anything. 6 months ago, you said, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
5 months ago, you was wearing a red hat and you said, you didn't say we, you said we are. You didn't say were, you said, all right, you got me. This can't take this shit personally.
Yep.
Hey, Kev, before you go, and this could be the last question
ahead,
if you desire, but before you came on, we spoke about women marrying for the wrong reasons. And the question I posed was, are women destroying the image of marriage?
Are women destroying the image of marriage? Women marrying for the wrong reasons. I'm going to answer it this way. I think that the marriage rom-coms in Hollywood has destroyed the image of marriage. Disney has destroyed the image of marriage. So it doesn't surprise me that women are marrying for romantic love. Romantic love and that kind of stuff. So sadly, so many of our women are marrying for true love. And in my opinion, that's the wrong reason, because that's not what gets you through. Do I fault them per se? No, that's the message that's pumped out. But what I am hopeful is, now that we have people on the airwaves, that folks can get the message. When I say F love, I don't care about love, I'm starting to hear more people say, hey man, maybe we should go back to an arranged system or this or that. Because that's what it really comes down to. When we get to the point of marrying for outcomes, legacy, then we're in a better position. And I think we have to, and that's why I'm also a big proponent of black male media run by black men for black men. We have to redefine a lot of things from a male-centric standpoint. Okay, if we say women are getting married for the wrong reasons, let's take that. What are we going to do about it? If the wrong reasons benefit the enemy or somebody else, there's money in it, then we got to do something different now, don't we? So we want women to marry for the right reasons. We got to put the right reason out there in our own voice.